This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor Jon Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
Something that obviously happens every year, the time change is a reminder. It's a cue. It's a reminder to people. Do you use the time change as a reminder to check? You got to check all the batteries in your smoke detectors, and you got to change the filters in your HVAC units.
Who does that? No, I just read the other day that because it messes up our circadian rhythms, that there's a 31% more chance of having strokes because of the time changes. That is not a joke.
Do you want to know?
PBS.
Do you want to know another?
NPR.
Do you want to know another not a joke?
What?
My great grandfather is the man who put the daylight savings times into law.
You are kidding me.
Nope. Look it up. Senator Calder.
Don't get me wrong. This time of year, do I like the fact that it's not pitch dark in the morning?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well,
but do I hate the fact it's pitch black when I go home after work? I detest it.
On behalf of my family, we're sorry.
Your family may cause me to have a stroke. 31% more potential chance of having
Senator Calder is my great-great-grandfather. Ladies and gentlemen of Louisville, I'm sorry.
If I had ever known that.
You would be just fine, and you and I would just still be just as good of friends. Everything is fine. That's funny. I know you're such a history nerd, and I'm surprised I've never told you that story before.
No, that's the first time.
Hold on,
what are you supposed to do when they change the clocks?
We fall back. We fell back already this year.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use it as a cue to check. Okay, so you're supposed to check your smoke detector batteries every 6 months. Now.
Okay.
On top of that, do you have enough smoke detectors in your house? Because this is where the information, alarming, pun intended, lean in. I don't know how many smoke detectors you have in your house, but it's probably not enough. A lot of people think, one on every floor. Incorrect information. The National Fire Protection Association recommends that you might need 5 to 10 alarms because you're supposed to have one in every bedroom, outside of every sleeping area, and on every level of the house, including your basement and finished attics. Take pause, do the quick math in your head of how many smoke detectors you're actually supposed to have, and now think about how long it's going to take you to change all those batteries twice a year.
That's what I was going to say. And you're supposed to do it every 6 months. I mean, all I know is that every time one of those silly things, and I'm going to tell the truth here.
Okay.
I don't know, every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
You'll when they start going beep.
It does. They do tell you when the battery's low. Yeah.
And it does it forever. Beep.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, just unplug the thing. It doesn't matter. Mine are all hardwired. It's all the worst thing ever. Yeah. But it's when that backup battery goes down. So that would take a long time.
You need a lot. Now,
I
think about how this correlates. We're bringing us back around to retirement planning because you, sir, have said before, when you retire, you need at least 3 to 5 sources of income. And it makes me feel the same thing. So I'm supposed to have how much?
Yeah.
And how do I begin to create that kind of income security for myself?
Yeah. When you look at it, and we've seen this statistic after statistic after statistic, and all of the studies that they do, and all of the polls that they do, in people that have fewer than 3, 4, or 5, and really most people, they had 4 income sources or more. If you ask them, did they feel confident in their retirement? People that had less than 4 were like, not really that great. People that had 3. That was the lowest number of income sources where they felt like their plan could work, right? Okay. And this is what I love about this study. It had no relevance on how much money you'd saved. It was simply, do you know how many different ways that you can get $1 to put in your pocket so that you can pay for your electricity that month, or to pay for food, or to put gas in the car? And that was one of the things that I started paying attention to. The most successful clients I have when it comes to income streams have 5 or more income sources. Wow. They really do. Wow. And the craziest thing is that they may not have the most savings. It doesn't matter. They got royalties coming in on top of a pension, on top of Social Security, on top of the fact that they rent out their lake house every year and they make a fortune on that. And on top of that, they do other things. They got part-time work. They sell things on Etsy. You know, they always make sure that never have a yard sale. If you have decent stuff, put it on the marketplaces and get more money like you should. Don't let someone give you $5 for that pizza oven when you could actually get $125 for it online because you paid $600 for it, right? All of these things add up to income streams. I know I do not have enough smoke detectors in my house if I need 5 to 10. We may have 5 in the house, but if we need one for every bedroom,
and then outside of every bedroom, and then one
all the hallways, all the levels, that's just a lot. So I get it. I get it when someone says, John, how do I get 5 income sources? Well, let's just go ahead and start from the very beginning.
Okay.
Most Americans either are going to receive Social Security, or if they had a federal program that didn't allow them to have Social Security, or they were a state teacher like my mother, she does not get Social Security because she has her state pension. But if you have that, typically you're going to have a pension or you're going to have Social Security. Now, if you're fortunate enough to be able to get Social Security and a pension, that's even better. Right. So my granddad had basically 3 pensions in his retirement. He had one of the greatest retirements of anyone that not only have I heard of, but that in my industry for 25 years. Yeah. It is one of the greatest retirements I've ever seen. He had Social Security, he had military retirement, and then he also retired with the Corps of Engineers. He had 3 different retirements to the tune of over $10,000 a month. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my grandfather never even got close to making $10,000 a month when he worked. Not even close. I think that we tried to figure out one time, I think it's $32,000 was the most household income they had when he was a worker back in those days.
Wow.
But in retirement, they lived, the word isn't lavishly, right, but there was nothing they couldn't do if they wanted to. It was really amazing. And that's what made me realize, even if they had saved no money, they had no money in their investment accounts. If that had been the case, and it wasn't, but had it been, they would still have had $10,000 guaranteed by government or state agencies for the rest of their life. And after he passed away, every one of those went to my grandmother. So she, being a surviving spouse, didn't even have much of a drop in her Social Security or much in her income.
Okay.
So it was unbelievable. And that's what made me realize, wow, when it comes to retirement, sure, it's nice to have $10 million in the bank or a couple $1 million. It'd be nice. But what we need is income.
Right.
Income is the ultimate outcome. And the more that we can get it assured or guaranteed, or take your pick on that, that is even better, right? So that's probably the biggest factor. So when we're thinking about how can we create income sources, well, think about the assets that you have spent money on and think about, can those produce income for you? Or could you sell some of those assets? And people say, well, I don't know about that, John. I go and talk to people all the time. And every time I'll go out, they'll have their pole barn out there. They'll have 6 cars that are all getting, he's working on them, and there are tractors. But I'm like, hey, just out of sheer curiosity, do any of these things run? Well, John, most of them do. I was like, well, if you were to sell one of these things, oh man, that's a blah, blah, blah Grand National, I could probably get $60,000 out of that. It's like, really? Would you ever consider that? Well, I don't know about that. But the point is that what could you do with that $60,000? Would that fund you being able to take the wife and go on a Mediterranean cruise? A lot more than that. You could maybe do that 2 or 3 times. Yeah. On top of that, take the grandkids down to Disney if you were so inclined. And or here's a big one, retire 2 or 3 years earlier, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I've started introducing to my clients is the FIRE methodology of retirement. When you are financially independent, F-I want you to retire early, R-E, F-I-R-E. When you're financially independent, I want you to retire early. That is a big one, because what that allows you to do is to start doing all the things that when we're kids, we actually thought about, the things that we dreamed of, the important things that we realized. Family is probably a lot more important. You hope, at least I do, I hope that my headstone one day says, great husband, great father, loving human being, something like that, right? Even though I want to be a great financial advisor, even if I want to be good in business, I don't think that I would look up or down for my situation at that point in time. Yeah, I don't think I would be happy if it said good business person, good advisor, right? Yeah. So those are those things. And this is why I want people to have that. When you're financially independent, I want you to retire early. I want you to start working on those things that we kind of lose track of, right? Family, friends, the good times, the experiences that we can do. And all it takes is the right amount of income. 3 to 5 income sources are a minimum in my book, right? Okay. But if you have 5 different pieces of real estate, and every one of those 5 pieces of real estate give you a check each month, guys, in my opinion, I include that as 5 different ones, because they should work independently of each other, especially if one's a commercial property and one of them's a rental for Airbnb and one of them's your lake house. They all have different income structures. You add that to Social Security. If you have a guaranteed annuity or a pension, they're basically the exact same thing. One comes from a company and one comes from you personally by you choosing which company you want to deal with, and then pulling money from your savings accounts or investing accounts. When you add those up, most people done correctly could easily get 4 or 5.
Okay.
And remember, why do I say this?
Yeah.
Because from all the polls and all of my clients, the people that have 4+ income streams are truly happy. This is an elusive and important word, but they are happy in retirement. And that's what I think every one of us want.
Of course, we all do. We work so hard to get to this place. You want to go into retirement with confidence at your back. And that confidence, as Jon points out, it begins with knowing where your income's going to be coming from. So if you don't know how many income streams you have or how many streams with the assets you have, you could potentially create for yourself. This is what we're here to help you figure out. Let's start the conversation. The number you're dialing right now, 502-317-0840. 502-317-0840. Give us a call. We'll set a time on the calendar for an initial phone conversation with one of our advisors. This is a no fee, no obligation initial step in the planning process, just a space for you to ask some questions, explain what you're concerned about, and then we'll tell you how we might be able to help you figure it out in a plan that's customized to you and your goals, one that includes those multiple income streams. 502-317-0840. If you're over 59, if you've saved at least $500,000, this is where you're going to see the benefits of this kind of planning really take effect. At J. Hagan Capital, ready to show you what we can do for you. 502-317-0840. Give us a call right now. You can also go to our website, retirementsolutionradio.com. Click on the button that says Find Your Retirement Solution and start that way as well. Or it's 502-317-0840. Getting into the holidays. Oh, you're getting into your birthday season for Jon Hicks.
Oh.
Are you one of the people that, I feel like most guys in my life, they're like, yeah, so.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I literally have to think about the age I am anymore.
Right?
I really do. Like, it's like, what am I, 47, 49, 52?
Watching our parents do that, and we were like, I'm never going to forget how old I am. And now I sit here, I'm like, wait, how old am I? I was born in 1979. I'm going to do that.
When you run out of fingers quickly to count them, unless you're 16, right? So when you know exactly when you turn 16, you probably know when you're 18 and 21. After that, it's kind of like, how close am I to RMDs? How close am I to, hold on, I'm 71. No, honey, you're 72. I am?
Oh, no.
Crap. I need to call John. I got to take money out next year. But there gets to be a certain age where it almost doesn't kind of matter. November is the big month in our family. It is, this year is going to be my 20th anniversary. Yeah. My littlest will turn 11. I will turn 40. 50. I'll have to do the math on that one later. Okay. My dog has a birthday. Oh. My mother-in-law has a birthday. We never confuse those two. Okay. Those are completely secretly separate, and I'm going to get in trouble later because I put them sat back to back, and I didn't mean to do that. It was absolutely 100% not
on the radio.
Yeah. So, yeah, no big deal. There's no one listening.
Microphone's on.
No. But so all of those things all happen within a short period of time. And then, of course, it's Thanksgiving. And then the Black Friday, I say, oh, la, 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 la.
And the spending season. You start the spending season early, apparently, at your house. There's lots of things to purchase this time of year.
We really do that Christmas in July thing. Where we just get on the Amazons and the whatevers of the world. And we're like, hey, what do we think? Yeah. Yes. What do you think her foot size is going to be? In 4 months, 5 months, honey. Yeah. I don't know, get 2 of them. Get one that you think fits her now and one that's going to fit her next year.
Smart. Other things that are happening this time of year in the office, conversations around, all right, what can I do, Jon? What moves I need to make before the end of 2025? One of the conversations I'm sure that you're having that people are asking you about, as the Fed has done another interest rate cut, the big reason why they're doing this, at least according to the headlines, is to address higher unemployment. But strategist Evan Brown is pointing out that history shows this strategy can also pay off for investors. This is Evan Brown.
First of all, it's a strange economy right now. We're talking about that GDP is quite strong, but the labor market is soft, and we're waiting to see how that will evolve. But the soft labor market is what's getting the Fed to cut. And just history shows when the Fed is easing and the economy is holding up and earnings are strong, that's some of the best returns that you get in equities. And so I think it's kind of keep it simple. This is a good environment for stocks.
It is a strange economy, though, isn't it? It's been that way for a few years now, I feel.
Very much so. I mean, like from the moment that the current administration, when Trump was elected, the market took a huge run up and then it got weird. And towards the end of last year, it just did weird stuff. And then, of course, at the beginning of this year, as soon as we said the word tariff and it looked like that could be a real thing, the market just went into like aftershock mode. And it's just been kind of weird ever since. Mm-hmm. All of the polarizing things that happen in the news, all the polarizing things that happen internationally, for some reason, It's just kind of all happened all at the same time,
Yeah.
and it's being very odd. But if you look at when Fed rate cuts have happened in the past, and this is what most economists are saying is going to be a rate cut cycle, where we're not doing it all at once. You don't take the Band-Aid and just rip it off all at once. You do a cycle of rate cuts. So after this last one, it's really interesting because immediately after it was reported that the rates were cut, Powell came back and said, and sounded a little bit hawkish, and he basically said, no, it's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to cut anymore. In the beginning of the year, or a couple of months ago, he said, hey, this may be one of a couple more rate cuts to happen by the end of the year. But he basically made it sound that inflation isn't gone yet. And it actually still makes them a little worried. It makes them more worried than the labor market. So I did some research on this, Heather. And what I saw was after a cycle of rate cuts, whether they cut any more this year or the beginning of next year, typically what happens is equities will typically be pretty volatile, as we've seen. But a year after the rate cuts have happened, the market's typically higher. As a matter of fact, on average, if you look back over the last 40 years, the average S&P gain is about 15 to 21% a year after that cycle of rate cuts has happened. So that's actually pretty good news. The only problem is, as of right now, markets are pretty darn expensive. Now, it doesn't mean that they're ready to free fall. It doesn't mean that they're ready to careen off a cliff. It doesn't mean any of that. But things are kind of expensive. As a matter of fact, and I know I've said this on the last probably 4 or 5 shows in a row, but I need to say it again. This is the second most expensive that the United States stock market has ever been, according to the Nobel Prize winner, Robert Shiller. The only time more expensive than right now to own the S&P 500 or the overall stock market was in 1999 going into the year 2000. And of course, if we remember back, over 25 years ago now, if we remember back, the market lost over 50% over 3 years of just being lambasted. But the big thing was the NASDAQ, which was most of those technology companies that we all love today. Those technology companies lost over 80% from the top to the bottom before they turned back around. So the interesting thing about rate cuts is that if you look at it from just a purely economic standpoint and statistics, we would say, hey, stocks should do a little bit better. At the same time, things are kind of expensive, so it's hard to know. So when you mention strange economy, that's kind of a big deal. Now, the second thing about this economy is whatever happened to all those jobs? We could not find people to work for so long, and now all of a sudden we hear Amazon laying off record numbers of people. We hear Tesla laying off record numbers of people. We hear Meta is not going to be doing a whole new hiring of 30,000 people. They may actually be destaffing as well. There are very few industries right now we're finding that are actually increasing their labor force. Most of them are reducing. And they're not saying it's AI. They're not saying that at all. They're just saying, hey, we don't have the profitability that we were expecting to maintain these jobs. So that is a little alarming to me, because when you think about all of those years that we couldn't find enough people to work, now everyone's kind of like, yeah, we're pretty good right now. So that is another piece of the puzzle that makes me a little bit nervous, is the labor market. And so those two things combined, I feel that this is just a time to be cautious, if you will.
Okay.
So this is one of those things that we want to think, if they've cut rates, this is maybe we're a good time we look at our portfolio and look at the balance. A lot of folks, there's almost $8 trillion sitting in cash or money markets right now. I have not had a problem with that, because we were earning over 5% on those cash and money market accounts. We were CDs. That was great. Now that that's going to start reducing, the question is, what is our plan? Let's say 3, 5, 7 months from now, if rates are back into the 2.5% to 3% range, is that still a good place to park that money? Or should we think about what we're going to do if, right? What would we do? Is there a particular equity or a stock or a company that we would like to buy if it comes down 20%, like an NVIDIA or an Apple? Take your pick. I'm not suggesting any of those, but those are good companies. But what the question is, what discount would you like to see on that to make that difference? Or how low would interest rates have to go, where you're not getting paid very much by the bank or that money market? How low would they need to go before you need to earn more to keep up with inflation? Because at least right now, the reason that they were saying that they may not reduce rates further is because inflation's still kind of high,
right?
A little bit over 3%. And so the question is, if we're earning 3% on the money, but inflation's 3.1 or 3.2, we may be safely losing our money, but we're still losing it to purchasing power. So those are the things that I think most of us need to kind of understand. And this is a great time to bring up the concept of how many dividend paying quality companies do you have in your portfolio? This is one of those great opportunities as rates start to drop. but we can find some good purchases out there, some good companies that we believe in, like, and I'm just saying these, an ExxonMobil or a Chevron. So it's not about making those decisions. It's like, where can we turn to win in this economy, no matter what happens? Great dividend payers that have consistently increased their dividend over time are attractive things. The other thing to consider would be if you use insured indexing. And this is where you go to a bank or an insurance company and say, hey, I want you to make sure my money is completely safe. I don't want to have any losses. I want you to insure my principal against loss. But instead of paying me 3 or 3.25%, why don't you just buy an option on a stock index like the S&P? If it does happen to go up, because remember, these rate cuts typically make equities move up, but you don't want to take the risk. This would allow you to have total freedom because a bank or an insurance company is insuring your principal, but you make money on the upside, usually to the tune of 7, 8, 9, up to 10%. I've seen them higher. I've seen them a little lower, but those aren't bad ideas, especially if we want to have a little bit more safety net, but have a lot more opportunity in case this is all just another moment in time and it ends up being fine in the long run.
Well, hopefully. But one of the rules of the planning process that we always talk about, John, is you got to hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Absolutely. And the whole point is that this is where a great opportunity also exists. Look at the balance of your portfolios. Make sure you have the right protection. If you don't have your savings protected enough, you won't be able to retire on your own terms, or you'll have to prolong it. Right. And so no one wants to have to do that. Yeah. So if you don't have a plan that understands, because this is what we talk about with our clients, we just want to know, hey, if this happens, this is maybe a good opportunity to look at buying a great quality company at 30 to 40% off. On the other side, if we're worried that rates keep coming down, maybe this is a great time to consider some dividend paying options or some insured indexing options where we can at least protect our principal, but maybe get much higher upside if that happens.
If you were wondering how these things can apply to your plan, if you have questions about what's happening with the Fed rate cuts, unemployment numbers, soft labor markets, how it affects equities versus investing in or being more cautious, there is a lot of play here. There are a lot of moving parts. I mean, we started the segment talking about how it really is a strange economy. It's been that way for a while. That doesn't mean you can't retire. It doesn't mean you shouldn't retire. At J. Hagan Capital, they are here to help you figure it out. So let's begin the conversation. That number to dial right now, 502-317-0840, 502-317-0840. To put a time on the calendar for an initial phone conversation with one of our advisors. This is a no fee, no obligation, initial step in the planning process, just a space for you to ask some questions. We'll explain to you how we might be able to help. And then, of course, begin that planning process. 502-317-0840. If you're over 59, if you've saved at least $5,000 of investable assets, this is where you're really going to see the power of this kind of planning take effect. We want to show you what we can do for you. 502-317-0840. When it comes to your retirement, invest in yourself and take ownership. Or I guess take advice of a billionaire. I will die on the hill of give me the richest people that earned their money. They didn't just come into it, but they earned their money.
Yeah, we don't want any
share their
trust
advice.
fund kids. That's not fair. Silver spoons, that's not fair.
No disrespect, but it's just different energies.
We want to learn from the people who actually did it themselves,
who did the work,
right?
Who did the work. So when you say the name Sarah Blakely, I feel like there's a 50-50 divide. 50% know exactly who it is. Actually, 51% I think is the female population of the world now. So when you say it to most men are going to say who? Say Sarah Blakely to a woman, they're going to say,
was she on Dancing with the Stars at one time?
That's my best friend, a.k.a. the inventor of Spanx.
Oh, that's Sarah Blakely. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, she did all right.
She's doing all right. She is doing all right. She's actually, she's 54. She did end up selling Spanx last year for the low price of $1.2 billion. She has since started a whole new business.
Again. So she did women's shapewear, right? Was she the first person to kind of call it that, women's shapewear? Was that out there already?
Not in the way that it is now. She was definitely a pioneer. I mean, it was much more like you think about the corsets and stuff that our grandmothers used to wear. Sure. The way it is now, she was definitely a pioneer in that space. Wow. And obviously her business mind is one that's unparalleled to many others. Sure. And as I was saying before, she sold Spanx. She started a whole new company now. She's created sneaks. She's on a mission to now create the first comfortable high heel. So we'll stay posted on that one, John. But I want to talk about,
wins.
I bet she does. She's got that way about her. She was on the School of Hard Knocks podcast, and she was talking about how she did all the things with Spanx as a business without taking money from anyone else. This is Sarah Blakely.
It was so easy for me to get investors. You know why? I'm the only investor. I never had a single investor in Spanx other than me. I'm serious. I started it with $5,000 from selling fax machines and self-funded the entire 21 years. So it was really easy to get an investor. I sat down with myself and I was like, do you want to spend your $5,000 on a vacation or do you want to try to bet on yourself? And I bet on myself.
I do want to spend $5,000 on a vacation, but
well, that would be nice. But I think now with $1.2 billion, she could probably do a lot more vacations.
She does a lot of vacations.
Yeah, or just basically live the life of like being on a vacation.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
She's
Did she say she started off with only the $5,000 that she had earned from selling fax machines?
So I'm a
door to
Sarah
door?
Blakely super fan. So know that about me. I know lots of things about her. She asked her dad's a lawyer. She asked her dad for some money, and her dad said to her, don't take money from me. Don't take money from anybody. Go to the bank, get a loan from the bank, invest in yourself. That's a lesson she took from her dad, and that's where she started with Spanx.
That's impressive. That is impressive. But I think that you could almost parlay that same concept, right? You can take that same thing when you're thinking about retirement. The question is, are we betting on ourselves, right? Does that make sense to you, Heather, when you think about it that way?
Yeah.
And here's what I mean by that. So I think so often people get hung up in looking at all of the articles and all of the YouTubes and the TikToks and whatever, and they're saying, hey, I don't have enough money to retire because my number should be blank, blank, blank,
right.
And it's not. Or I have to retire at this certain age because that's when Medicare begins and all this kind of stuff. All of these things that we are told that we either have to do or have to think. We have to have 60% of our money in stocks and 40% in bonds. Whatever these nonsensical blank things are, all they're doing is stopping us from investing in ourselves because we don't have control. One of the greatest things about, and I'm a small business owner too, I get it. I have to have a whole support system to help everything that we do for all of our clientele. I mean, it's tremendous. And every year we increase headcount because we have to? No, because we need good quality people to do things. But at all points in time, what we try to do is to maintain what my original vision was, which is to make sure that we can get to someone, and when they're thinking about retirement, this is probably going to be their first opportunity to retire. We hope it is. We want it to be a great experience. But the main thing is, it's more than just the dollars and the cents. It's, can they do what they want, when they want, with who they want? That is that system of control. And that's what Sarah did. And I think it was really interesting. So often, and this is kind of why I want to do this, if you think about what it means to take ownership of your own retirement, here's what I want you to do. I want you to maintain control over your income, because in retirement, income is the outcome. If you have consistent money coming in, whether it's Social Security or you have an Airbnb, but it's got to be consistent though, right?
Right.
Or you have these incomes coming in, you have a guaranteed pension from your old employer, or you have an annuity income stream, whatever it is, if you can maintain your income consistently, you can maintain your lifestyle. And that's the whole point. And when you have that kind of control, you can basically understand one thing. You have financial independence. So that's the craziest thing. So Sarah took 5,000, turned into 1.2 billion. What I see every day is the people that have saved exceedingly well. They've saved $700,000, $1 million, $3 million, $12 million, but they still don't have a game plan to maintain their control. I hear people all the time saying, well, John, I'm going to wait until I have $1 million. I only get $833,000 now. I'm going to wait till I have $1 million. That's not control, because they could retire right now. And they could do all those things they want to do on their own time with their people they want to, and enjoy it now. I believe in the FIRE method. If you have financial independence, then you can retire early. FIRE. Financial independence, retire early. That's what I want everyone to think about. If you do it that way, you're going to be very happy. And some people say, hey, I'm financially independent. I just want to keep working. That's fine. It'll keep you and give you something to do. It'll keep you active. But when you think about how can we make sure that we have our independence, how can we bet on ourselves? Number one, when you're going through these things, you want to make sure you're not relying on the ups and downs of the stock market to provide your income. Heather, that's probably one of the biggest ones.
Okay.
Because if we're relying on what the administration does or what Congress does in order to keep the markets afloat, if we have to rely on that, then there's a good chance that they're not going to help our end of the bargain, right? Sarah didn't take money from outside people because she didn't want too many people making all these opinions and causing things to go awry.
Right.
She was right. Same thing for us. We want to make sure that we don't let the markets control our income. Number two, we have to be very careful about taxes in this country. Right now, taxes are as low as we've seen them in a very long time. The tax bill that was just passed this summer, I feel, is unbelievably attractive to provide opportunities to shift money correctly and legally into things that we will mitigate future taxes. It is so important. It's not for everyone, but if you have saved $1 million or more, there is typically something that we can find that the new law allows that can give us tremendous opportunities to lower our future tax bills. Because guys, right now, we cannot sustain the debt load we currently have with the spending the government's doing. And that was after we've had a government shutdown for a period of time, right? So that's a big deal. That makes me really nervous. And so we have to try to control that tax rate. That is going to be super important so that we can maintain what we want and better ourselves in retirement.
Okay.
And lastly, we need to make sure that headlines do not lead our decisions. Headlines often are just the things out there because if it bleeds, it leads. If it seems like it's bad, they put it out there because they want that gotcha, that shock value. But most of the time, it doesn't really even affect at all our personal economy. It has nothing to do with our day-to-day life. It has nothing to do with where we live or the neighbors we want to talk to or where we want to retire or the type of incomes we need. Okay. So those are the things that I want us to put kind of into a check situation. And the easy way to do that is do what I've been talking about on the show for the past 12, 13 years. Number one, make sure that you protect what you've worked so hard to save, right?
Yep.
So Sarah was able to bet on herself because she had saved that money. She didn't spend it. She could have done a vacation, but then she wouldn't have had the money to actually get that first prototype to change the entire women's shapewear world. It's the truth. So we have to protect what we've worked so hard to save. Secondly, we have to develop an income stream, and that income stream needs to survive even if interest rates go lower or the market falls off a cliff or we go into a recession. And there are all kinds of things that can do that. Social Security, hopefully, is one of those that can do it, at least a portion of Social Security. Annuities are another thing that can do that if you don't have a pension. But all an annuity is just a personal pension. People love their pensions from their old jobs, assuming that company is still solvent, right? As long as it can pay the bills,
Right.
People love their pension income. An annuity is just a personal pension. So we have to control our income. And thirdly, the big one of the three, in my opinion, I think that we have to control those tax rates. We can put ourselves in much better positions by utilizing the tax code correctly and making certain that we're paying the least amount, not just today, but over the next 20 to 30 years of retirement. Those are big deals. Those are three things that we can do to invest in ourselves so that we can control the future.
I got to reiterate the list because you gave us two lists there. So one, things not to do. Don't rely on the market for our income. Don't ignore taxes. And don't let headlines force you to make decisions. Then,
Of course, yes.
the things to do, control what you can control, it sounds like. Make sure you control your protection. Save your money. Make sure you control your income. Make sure we're revisiting taxes. Control what you can control with taxes, which there is a lot that you can control. So many people think they just got to take it on the chin. They don't even realize how much control over taxes they actually have.
Well, right now, again, especially if we've done a great job saving, if we have a tremendous amount of income, basically, if we are a millionaire, there are opportunities that the GOP passed that allow us to do things that we've not had the ability to do in quite some time. And they can be very attractive if we want to lower our future tax bills. And that's my biggest thing with the amount of debt that the government has. My fear is that tax rates have nowhere to go but up. And if you feel that way or you think that way, you at least need to talk to a skilled advisor, a fiduciary-based advisor that understands tax. They need to have tax attorneys or CPAs on their staff so that we're not always just trying to figure out maybe this is a good thing to do. We want to have an actual game plan and an actual step-by-step solution so that we can be certain that as long as taxes stay the way they do at the moment, we can take advantage of that.
If you think about it, you've already kind of done like Sarah Blakely did. You have gotten to this point where you have built your nest egg. You have invested in yourself. Now you need to do that second step Sarah Blakely took, which is to take ownership and build out a plan for the years ahead. At J. Hagan Capital, we are here to help. Give us a call. The number to dial right now is 502-317-0840. 502-317-0840. A teammate is standing by off the air, ready to answer your call and help you set a time on the calendar for an initial phone conversation with one of our advisors. This is a no-fee, no obligation initial step in the process, just a space for you to ask your questions, and then we'll explain to you ways we might be able to help. 502-317-0840. You can also go to retirementsolutionradio.com or give us a call right now. Let's put a time on the calendar. 502-317-0840. Did I ever tell you the whole thing about my husband when we first got married and I went to do a jigsaw puzzle and the man sat down and did not start with the edge pieces?
Really?
And it was then
How
I realized
hard was that?
the monster that I married.
I remember the very first time that I saw that. I was probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Because
The number one rule of putting a puzzle together, you start with the edges.
Absolutely. And I remember watching, I was like, man, that person figured that out a lot faster than me.
No,
but it
you were
took me a
7
while.
or 8. Kyle is now 46. At the time, 30-something, 40-something. I don't know how he's made it this far in life. That's a whole nother radio program. We'll get to that. We'll get to that another time. We're here to help you figure out the solution that is the retirement solution, figuring out the puzzle. That's what John and I are doing every weekend here on News Radio 840 WHAS. Of course, John and his team, local independent financial advisors, and here to help you. So as you are listening, if you've got questions for John, if you're ready to start the conversation, give us a call. Let's set a time on the calendar, 502-317-0840. You can also find us anytime, retirementsolutionradio.com. So we're in our working years. We're responsible adults. We're putting jigsaw puzzles together, starting with the edges first, like good, responsible people do. We work, we save, we do, we build, we plan. Eventually, you get to the point where you start dreaming a little bit. I imagine once you get into your 50s, you start to think to yourself, what's all this for? Oh, right. We get to retire in the next decade or so. However, an article on Kiplinger.com was talking about the potential obstacles that can come in and throw us off, threaten our financial security in these retirement dreams that we have. There was actually, this article was titled 4 Headwinds of Retirement. So I wanted to go through these areas, John, and talk about the work that you do to help people combat these areas within their plan.
Yeah, so this was a really good article because it kind of puts out those 4 things that it's kind of why some of us, when we're thinking about retirement, we get excited. We start thinking about all the things we can do and all the wonderful times that we can create and all the things that we put off, like traveling and all these things. We think how great it is. Now, there's another portion of us that just get anxiety. They just get stressed out. They're like, oh my gosh, because maybe they have aging parents and that, sucked down all their money, or they required long-term care assistance or things like that. And they're thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be, I don't think that I like this at all. So the main thing is to understand the 4 major challenges and the things that we can do to at least put ourselves in the best possible position. So the 4 things that they discussed real quickly. Number 1 was longevity risk, which is basically just living too long. The second one was inflation, right? We've been coming off of an unbelievably scorching inflationary number. It's getting a little bit better now, but it's still kind of expensive, right?
Okay.
The third one is market volatility. Ever since Trump was elected, we've had tremendous volatility. Of the past 20 years, when you look at it, even though the market has generally gone up, there's been a lot of volatility, and that changes things tremendously when we retire and we need to pull money from those incomes. We'll talk about that in a second. And the fourth one is taxes. So those are the 4 major elements we have to prepare for. So let's just go ahead and start number 1, longevity risk. And this is kind of like the big paradox. We typically want to live long, healthy, happy lives, but the longer we live, the more money that we're going to need.
Yep.
So retirement may not be 15 or 20 years like it was for our parents. It may be 35 to 40 years. I mean, one of the sobering statistics that I recently looked at is that if you're a 65-year-old couple today, there is a better than 50% chance that one of you will live to 92 years of age. 92.
And it's just growing the age limit they're talking about stem cell research and then the advancement of AI. They're saying, I think I read somewhere where they were talking about how the life expectancy can quickly become 120 years. And I just had I was like, excuse me, I need a seat. I need to take several seats, everybody.
Absolutely. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Okay.
So when you think about that, the fact that we could be around, but from the time we tell our boss, hey, I'm done, I'm hanging it up, we could last for 40 more years in retirement. So that's kind of a big deal. So the big thing to think about that is don't let it freak you out. Don't let it stress you out.
Okay.
But this is why planning is so important. A really good financial plan is not something, even if you put it on paper, it's not something that never changes. As a matter of fact, the financial plan needs to be potentially altered each and every year.
Okay.
Now, not every month or every day or whenever the market does something. I'm just talking about annually. You just want to look, hey, did you have a clean bill of health from your doctor? Great. Did you do those traveling plans you wanted to do? Did you go to Madrid or did you see Barcelona? Did you do those things? Again, that's a big check mark we need to think about. All those things that will change as you change. The greatest way to do this is to what I call, it's one of the few things left, to game the Social Security system. Okay. Now, when we say this, we're not doing anything we shouldn't do, but there used to be all kinds of loopholes to squeeze extra money out of the system.
Okay.
And let's be real. That system does not have enough money in it. So we need to try to game it if we can. And this is what we call the 62-70 split strategy. Okay. Now, this is a different one. Most people haven't heard of this, but this is one of the things that we can consider. What you do is if you have a couple that are married and they both have the ability to collect Social Security, you take the smallest earner's Social Security benefit at 62.
Okay.
Now, why do we do that? Well, because you're going to have a little bit of money coming in, but it was going to be the smallest bucket. Now, when you do that, you do not turn on the larger earning spouse's Social Security yet. You let theirs wait until age 70. Now, by doing this, if you assume that your full retirement benefit would have been close to around $3,000, that's what I base this on. By doing it this way, where the lower earner takes theirs early and the higher earner takes theirs later, you're doing two huge things. It could potentially be the difference of over $19,000 a year every year for life, or for the average couple, if you live to be 95 years old, over $450,000 extra dollars over time.
Wow.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That is a huge one. And also, regardless of which spouse may pass away first, because you're waiting on that larger earner's bucket for age 70, that surviving spouse is going to have potentially a much larger bucket in the end. So that is what we call the 62-70 strategy. Now, it's not perfect for everyone. There's a 1,000 reasons that you would have a different way to do it, but this is a way to still game the system, because we have to do one thing. We have to protect our income, and guaranteed income is the best income if we last for a long period of time. So whether you have a guaranteed pension from your employer, you want to do this 60-70 rule from the Social Security, or if you look at it, a longevity annuity or a guaranteed income annuity, those are some of the only things out there where you can actually say the word guaranteed on them, right? As long as those companies stay in business, or Social Security keeps paying out, or those insurance companies still, are still in business, or those banks are insured and guaranteed. Those are the only things we can do, but that is one of the greatest ways to handle longevity risk. That was number one. Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to move on to the second one. The second one was inflation, guys. This is probably one of the scariest things. When you think about if you retire at age 65, by the time that you're 80, things may cost 70% more money. Yep. You can think about that when you think about the cost of your last car. Many people that I talk to today is like, John, my last car cost $61,000. It's a nice one. Don't get me wrong. I was like, well, then what was the cost of your first home? And they're like, we only paid $58,000 for our first house. Guys, think about that. Your last car cost more than your first house. That's inflation, and it's for real, right? So when you think about those types of things, we have to make sure we're keeping up with inflation. And this is why you'll hear the guru say, and I agree with this, you need to have some money that has a little bit of risk to it that can potentially keep up, whether that's equities like the United States stock market. We still want to use quality companies, but we also want to think about, this technology catalyst that's going through everything. We want to make sure we have a good piece of that. At the same time, we could be looking at real estate. Gold is often a pretty good hedge over the long run on dealing with inflation, and dividend paying stocks. Those are the four things that I think for almost every one of us, the amount that we own of each of those four things, it probably will differ for all of us. But the main thing is those are all things that we should be considering in our portfolios. Okay. So the thing about inflation is hopefully the Fed gets it under control, but we have to be prepared to invest in ways that have our money grow over time.
Yep.
All right. The third headwind was market volatility. And guys, this is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. With the advent of quantitative strategists out there and tactical investing and algorithmic investing and the fact that they're going to move, it hasn't happened yet, but they're going to move all the stock markets to 22 to 24 hours a day. Things that happen when we're asleep right now don't affect us very much until the market opens up. It will be potentially a 24-hour news cycle that are going to be potentially controlling some stocks.
Okay.
So that being the case, we're going to be prepared for more volatility. This is very important to understand. How much of your money is protected and how much of it do you have a risk with? Can you put stop losses or use derivatives to protect your downside? Can you use safety nets? Are there certain products that are available that give you some level of barrier or buffer to protect your downside? Those all exist. I don't know if they're right for anyone out there, but we use each and every one of those for our clients, depending on the level of security they need. So we have to protect those because stock market volatility is going up, not down, and we need to be prepared.
Okay.
Now, the last one, I want to spend just a couple seconds on this one because this is a big one. Taxes. Taxes is going to be the largest headwind to our country. We have over $37 trillion of national debt. Yeah. We, every 40 to 50 days, are increasing that by $1 trillion at the current clip. You can research me on that. You can look me up. You can fact check me. This was one of the most alarming statistics I have seen in a very long time. The government, while it was shut down, was still printing money that we don't currently have coming into the Treasury. That is a problem. Guys, we have to be very prepared for tax rates to go up tremendously, not tomorrow, maybe not for this current administration, maybe, but over the next 15 to 20 years. And how long does retirement often last? Well, we just said 15, 20, 30, 40 years. So we need to be careful that the government does not end up confiscating 20 or 30% more of our savings through the form of taxes. Why? Because it has to pay the bills. Yeah. Guys, this is one of the easiest things we can control, but it's why we have to have a tax plan as part of our retirement plan today. It'd be better if it was yesterday because we could have taken advantage of some loopholes that just became available. If you do not have a tax plan as part of your retirement plan, you have to jump on that immediately. And it's going to be one of the best things you'll ever do because taxes will be your largest expense in retirement potentially. We can potentially buffer that. These are real headwinds, but there are real solutions. You just need to seek out skilled fiduciary help.
Let's start the conversation. RetirementSolutionShow.com is our website and where you can go to do that. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there, or again, it's RetirementSolutionShow.com.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with Jon Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with Jon and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting RetirementSolutionRadio.com. Be sure to listen to Jon's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through J. Hagan Capital, LLC, NPN number 1882794.